Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to this week's BD Outdoor Sportboat Roundup. With the storm that we have coming in, now's a really good time to check in on your gear, maybe give it a little bit of love. So for this week's video, I'm going to go in, show you guys how I break down my gear, how I'm going to clean my gear, and how I'm properly going to store my gear, hopefully so that it has the best success going into this next season. So let's get into it. There are serious benefits when it comes to looking over your gear and cleaning and storing your gear properly. You know, we spend a lot of money towards our gear. It is a huge investment. So we want to protect that investment and make sure that our gear lasts as long as possible. So me personally, I like to hold on to each one of my reel boxes. Each reel will come with its own tool that's specific to that particular reel. So it may not be something a Phillips or a flathead screwdriver can fix, especially when you're on the boat and need to change things out or tighten them up. But it's really good idea to hold on to those boxes or just to hold on to those manuals to resort back to if you decide to go ahead and take apart your reel and you want to know exactly what piece you took out. Those manuals are a definite go-to in that scenario. Some of the supplies I'm gonna have on hand when I start cleaning my reel and opening it to start cleaning it out, it's gonna be some Q-tips and some universal reel grease. And with my Q-tip, I'm just gonna take a little bit of grease and apply it to basically all the parts that move, all the different gears inside my reel. I also have a toothbrush here. So this toothbrush is basically gonna get all that salt residue out, dirt, different kinds of debris out of those smaller, harder to reach areas. And then lastly, I have a microfiber towel. Doesn't necessarily have to be microfiber, but especially after you rinse down your rod and you wanna give it a good wipe down to make sure that it's dry, this microfiber towel is perfect for that. I'm gonna start breaking down this setup of mine. First thing I'm gonna do, if you have old tackle, old hooks that are on here, jigs, whatever, you see that the hook is especially rusty, just throw it out. You don't need it, put a brand new one on. If you're gonna take off your reel, whether it be in a clamp or a reel seat, make sure that reel's off. What I do before the start of every season is make sure that I have fresh line on here. Fresh line before every new season. So at some point I'm gonna go in, take off all this line, put some fresh line on. You wanna double check your drag. You don't want your drag to be set as if you're about to go fishing. Make sure you have your drag set pretty much all the way down so that it's nice and loose before you store it away. What I like to do is first rinse my rod with fresh water or a soapy, damp towel just to remove salt residue, dirt, debris, even scales that like to stick on, anything like that. You want to make sure it's nice and wiped down. That toothbrush that I use, I like to get in there, get into harder to reach places just to make sure that my rod is getting a real good clean. Next, with a dry rag, I just wipe down my whole setup, make sure it's nice and dry. If you have any water that is left on your rod, it will rust those metal components. So really important that you make sure that once you've given your rod a once over with a damp towel or a fresh water rinse, you want to make sure that your rod is nice and dry. Next, I'm gonna look for any damage to my guides. So those Q-tips come in handy. I'll take a Q-tip, I'll run it around the guide, and especially if it's ceramic, you'll notice any nicks or any damage to those guides if you run your Q-tip around and you see that there's fiber being pulled. So that might be an indication that you need to get a new guide or get that serviced. Next, I'm gonna go through some of my jigs that I know have been in contact with salt water. So if you have a jig, the hooks are nice and shiny, there's no wear on them, there's no rust, perfect. You're just gonna rinse that off with fresh water, give it a good pat dry down, set it back in your bag. If you have a jig that has seen salt water, but the hooks are super rusted over, it's a good idea to cut those pair of hooks off with your pair of dikes. If it's something that needs to get soldered, just solder a new set back on and those are good to go. If you have assist hooks that you can tell are a little bit frayed, I don't even mess around with those. I want to change those off, put a new set of assist hooks on, just so that it's not going to be jeopardized going into this next season. And if I happen to throw that jig out and I catch a fish, I don't want to worry and think to myself, I should have changed those assist hooks out. Cleaning your own gear helps you get to know your gear a lot better. Prep for success, protect your investment. I hope you guys found this week's video helpful. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll check in with you guys next time.